You're a brilliant kid, Alex. But in this industry, the name on the patent belongs to the person who runs the department, not the one who fetches the coffee. Pause. Those were the last words my boss, Marcus, said to me before walking into the boardroom to present the code I had spent 3 months writing. He didn't know that while he was practicing his speech, I was already preparing the digital receipts that would end his career. My name is Alex. I'm 22 years old, and 3 months ago, I landed a dream internship at one of the top software firms in the country. I was the intern, the guy who updated documentation, fixed minor UI bugs, and was generally treated as if I were invisible. But I had a secret. I was a better systems architect than half the senior engineers on the floor. I didn't have the degree yet, but I had the logic. The company, a tech giant that handled logistics for thousands of retailers, had been struggling with a ghost bug for over a year. It was a memory leak in the core routing engine that was costing them nearly $2 million a month in server overhead. Every senior dev had tried to fix it. Every high-paid consultant had failed. Marcus, the VP of engineering, was under immense pressure. He was the kind of guy who wore $5,000 suits to a coding job and hadn't touched a terminal in a decade. He was all about deliverables and synergy. But he couldn't explain the difference between a hash map and a binary tree if his life depended on it. He gave me the bug as a learning exercise. Basically a way to keep me busy so I wouldn't ask for real work. I didn't just learn. I obsessed. I stayed in the office until 3 a.m. for 2 weeks. I mapped out the entire architecture on my apartment walls. And then I found it. It wasn't a complex error. It was a single line of legacy code from 10 years ago that was creating an infinite loop under specific conditions. I wrote a custom patch, a piece of code so elegant it felt like poetry. It rerouted the traffic and eliminated the leak entirely. When I showed it to Marcus, I expected a good job. Instead, I saw his eyes light up with a cold, predatory greed. "This is adequate," he said, barely looking at me while he copied the files to his own encrypted drive. "Leave the source files with me. I'll need to clean them up and verify the security protocols before showing them to the CEO. And Alex, don't mention this to anyone. We don't want the board thinking we let a student touch the core engine. It would look unprofessional." I felt a pit in my stomach, but I had prepared for this. As a developer, I knew something Marcus had long forgotten. The code doesn't lie. The next day, the company held an emergency all-hands meeting. The CEO stood on stage beaming. "I am proud to announce that our very own VP of Engineering, Marcus Vance, has single-handedly solved the memory leak crisis. This breakthrough saves us $24 million a year." The room erupted in applause. Marcus stood up, adjusted his silk tie, and took the microphone. "It was a challenge," he said, smiling at the cameras. "It took weeks of deep-level analysis and decades of architectural experience, but I finally cracked it. I've always said that true leadership means getting into the trenches yourself." He didn't even look at me. In his mind, I was just a ghost in the machine, a disposable resource. But Marcus made one fatal mistake. He wasn't a real coder anymore. He had forgotten how modern development environments work. He had copied my code into his personal branch and pushed it to the production server, thinking that by uploading it, it became his property. What he forgot was Git. In software development, every single character you type is tracked by a version control system. It records who wrote what on which workstation at exactly what millisecond. It's a digital fingerprint that cannot be erased. I didn't complain to HR. I didn't send an angry Slack message. I knew Marcus was too powerful for that. Instead, I waited until the day of his official promotion party, the night he was to be named the new chief technology officer. The entire executive board was there, along with the company's biggest investors. Marcus was holding a glass of vintage champagne, surrounded by people calling him a genius. I walked up to the CEO and the current CTO, a woman named Sarah who had actually built the company's first servers 15 years ago. She was a real engineer, and I knew she'd value the truth. "Excuse me, Sarah," I said, holding my tablet. I was reviewing the new patch for the server update tonight. I noticed a small syntax anomaly on line 702 that might cause a latency spike during the migration. Since Marcus wrote it, I thought he could explain the logic, but he's a bit busy with the toast. "Could you take a look at the commit logs with me?" Sarah's eyes sharpened. Marcus said he wrote that on his isolated home machine to ensure security. There shouldn't be any external logs. "That's strange," I replied, pulling up the global Git history on the big screen meant for the evening's presentation. "Because the logs show that 99% of that code was committed from my terminal between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. And look here, I even left an Easter egg in the metadata." I scrolled to a hidden section of the code, a comment buried deep in the logic gates that read, "Property of Alex. Marcus, if you're reading this, you should have learned how to read code before you tried to steal it." The room went silent. Sarah didn't even look at Marcus. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. She was a pro. She knew exactly what she was looking at. "Marcus," Sarah said, her voice like ice, "come over here. Explain the recursive function on line 702. Now." Marcus walked over, his face turning a shade of purple I'd never seen. He stared at the screen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. He couldn't explain it. He didn't even know what a recursive function was. He had just copy-pasted my genius and called it his own. The party ended right there. Marcus was escorted out by security that night. The investigation that followed revealed he had been taking credit for the work of junior devs for years. He was fired for intellectual property theft, fraud, and violation of the company's ethics code. The $50,000 bonus was canceled, and his reputation in the tech world was vaporized. The CEO called me into his office the next morning. He didn't offer me another internship. He offered me Marcus's old salary and a lead architect position. Marcus thought I was just the intern. He thought I was dead weight he could use to climb the corporate ladder. He forgot that in the digital age, you don't build success on lies. You build it on code. And code always remembers. What do you think? Did Alex handle it the right way? Or should he have confronted Marcus privately first? Comment justice. if you think Marcus got exactly what he deserved for stealing an intern's hard work. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Karma Unleashed for more stories where the truth always comes to light. See you in the next one.